And we have the Counter-Terrorism Center, which has received new institutions as members in seeking to step up the war on terror. This follows President Uhuru Kenyatta signing into law the Statute Law Miscellaneous Amendments Bill 2019, which includes the Prevention of Terrorism Act. The new members of the CTC are the National Police Service, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Director of Public Prosecutions, the Kenya Wildlife Service, the Kenya Prisons Service, and the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority. The center will also act as an approving and reporting institution for all civil society and international non-governmental organizations engaged in preventing and countering violent extremism and radicalization. On that good note as well, also remember today there is a high-powered level conference that will be happening at the UN complex. That is the African Regional High-Level Conference on Counter-Terrorism and Prevention of Violent Extremism Conducive to Terrorism. That is happening at the UN Gigiri. We shall be also, of course, relaying that to you much later in the course of the day. And even some of our panelists will be in attendance this morning. But just to discuss that particular Prevention of Terrorism Act that has now, of course, come into play, and we know now various institutions will be working together as well. Let's just hear from Dr. Hassan Kanenje on this, because many of you as stakeholders also have been working largely to see this coming into effect. Tell us more about it, and another time also we'll be able to maybe tease it out completely, because I'm not really intimately familiar with it as it is right now.
Yeah, well, the National Counter-Terrorism Center is responsible for coordinating a number of actually agencies and efforts, governmental, non-governmental, and even outside our own, government efforts in countering violent extremism and terrorism. It is, I think there's a lot of misunderstanding generally with regard to the work that NCTC does. Now, the addition of a number of, MFA, or rather other departments and agencies in government, it's because of the recognition of the interconnectedness of the role that they play. Because you cannot exactly be addressing terrorism without having aviation. You can't address terrorism without having immigration or foreign affairs. All these departments are connected. And I think it's just a culmination of efforts to make, to ensure that we have a united front and that the left hand knows actually what the right hand is doing most of the time. Now, with regard to the NCTC being responsible for approving organizations that are dealing in CVE, I think there's been a recognition that the CVE industry has almost become sometimes something like commerce, like a business to some people. And you have people registering organizations that are actually not even doing CVE work, but in the name of CVE. Or at least conducting programs that sometimes do not speak to the national strategy in countering violent extremism. And then as a country, we face unique peculiarities in the region. There are certain things we understand. In this region, and actually in much of Africa, we're one of the leading countries, especially in these efforts, in a very organized way. And I think what the government is trying to do is to make sure that all efforts are united and all hands are on deck, and we're not working at cross purposes, because there have been incidents where the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing, or perhaps MFA could be having a strategy that might not exactly be speaking to another agency, in a way that it's working seamlessly. Now, when it comes to the NGO or civil society world, there's a proliferation of CVEs, civil society organizations. And a lot of times when you look at some of the work, some that they do actually, it does not exactly speak to the objectives or the strategy that we are trying to implement as a country. Now, we know that also a lot of organizations funded also tend to be foreign with regard to doing some work, and sometimes foreign countries have their own interest in the country. Now, if you don't have a way of actually mainstreaming that and making sure you control it, you might lose the war altogether. And it's a war as a country, and as Kenya, we cannot afford to lose, because the Al-Shabaab and the extremist threat for Kenya is real, imminent, and it's current.
All right. Dr. Mumunzao?
Yes, we've had we call it POTA, the Prevention of Terror Act, and all this. These mechanisms have been there, and institutions have been there, but within the broader policy framework within the United Nations and our sub-regional organizations, our RECs and so on, what is happening is that the entire discourse is moving from the hard military strategic approach to countering and preventing terrorism to the broader, rather softer, human security-oriented approach,
yes,
which is multifaceted and interconnected with so many actors. And so what Kenya is trying to do with the leadership of our dear head of state and the agencies and officers he has put in place, particularly NCTC under Ambassador Dr. Martin Kimani, a very good move to give these ministries, agencies, departments more operational latitude, to bring in more actors so that it is not a whole state-centric affair or core executive, if you like, internal security par excellence affair, but rather an affair that includes all other actors that were otherwise or earlier not seen to be part of the entire recipe. And therefore now you have important actors there to do with immigration, to do with the tax bodies, to do it, because if someone is planning a bad thing, sometimes they go through money laundering processes. They want to go through this kind of money transfer arrangements. They want to go through a very clandestine money laundering syndicates. And this then comes out now in terms of when the skill sets that terrorists have are at play, and it's a little too late when you have to bring in tacticians to deal with them. So with the whole idea is creating that broader operational environment, latitude in the context of legal, administrative, and the whole idea of means and ways, in order to ensure that we are not just looking in terms of the actual reaction that is counterterrorism proper, but the broader idea of prevention of violent extremism in line with the United Nations platform on prevention of terror, of terrorism and violent extremism.
All right.
Before in the earlier years, like a decade ago, people were looking at it in a very narrow way. Some people used to look at it from just simple things about religion and all that. Now it's a whole broadened affair where all actors are on board, and we have been involved actively in shaping the entire agenda.
Okay, let's hear from Erastus Mwencha.
Thank you. I think I'll bring in a regional context to what my two colleagues have aptly analyzed. But before that, I thought Muma said something very important about the human security. And the human security has got three aspects. That is freedom from want, freedom from fear, and freedom from indignity. Now, those are the three aspects that you must look at in terms of human security. Now, and the regional angle that I want to bring in,
yes,
and which has been brought out, is how do we avoid silo systems? Because they create the problems. If you see what happened in Westgate and the rest, you could see a silo issue cropping up. And the global architecture is even worse, because information sharing is a big problem among security agents.
Yes.
And one of them, for instance, if you get United States, they will come here, they have all that information, but they will not share with you.
Yes.
And even within the region itself, I have been privileged to participate at meetings of, say, security agents within the region, where you find they don't want to talk to each other because they fear that in itself might be a source of insecurity.
Yes.
And information is power. So how do you create layers? I wish I could use a better technology than, say, like a blockchain technology that you can use so that you know which information you share to who at what time, so that that essential information is available. For instance, when he talks about money laundering or, all these religious kind of extremists, you must have the capacity to be able to have this information and use it in an anticipatory manner. But it all boils down to information sharing, but it also boils down to saying this architecture cannot be there versus us. It is all of us in it together.
All right. Noami Damba.
Dubal, their war on terrorism, as we know it, is going to be won using intelligent network. And our friends here have outlined quite a number for the public. The term multifaceted is a very important term, Dubal, because when we talk about terrorism, we cannot just be thinking about Pokot or Wajir. We can't say there's never been one in Kisumu or in Kiambu. The people in Kiambu need to prepare and to anticipate at any time what will happen in the future. Dubala was so impressed in the street. We walk at 11:30 at night in Kigali, group of us, and everything is calm and you feel safe. And that's, nobody can go in the street in Kigali and act without some quiet person coming in and taking you away right away. And so they have intelligent network. They have layers and layers of intelligent network. That is the same thing in Israel. You know, the big guns our police are carrying, maybe for detection purposes and all that, but it's not serving the purpose. The purpose is intelligent. Where is it happening? And the ball is not going to happen when someone is shouting and everything. It's going to happen right now in a lab, in a cyber cafe, you know, where one single child, one single young man or woman with a really in-depth, intelligent, and artificial work can do so much damage. The point is, how did it start? What kind of environment is this child? Who is this person talking to? All that need to be unraveled very, very quickly for us to get to the root cause of what is happening.
All right.